So we can write 9 in multiple different ways, but we're going to focus on exponents today. So 3 squared, remember that means 3 times 3, right? Not 3 times 2. That means 3 times 3. That number times itself however many times the exponent says. Okay? So keeping that in mind, we're going to write expressions using exponents, and then we're going to evaluate some exponents using substitution. Okay? So we talked about order of operations last chapter, and we did some work with exponents, but now we're really going to dive deep with exponents. Okay? So if I have 5 squared, what part of that is the exponent? The 2 is the exponent, okay? What's power? Right, it's still that 2, right? That power is also 2, so power and exponent mean the same thing. Everyone should be writing this down. Power and exponent mean the same thing. Okay? What do we think base means? 5. The base is the bottom number, that 5. Okay, it's the base raised to a certain power or an exponent. Okay, so base is our bottom number. Think basement. Okay, it's on the bottom. Okay, and power, if you have power, you're usually higher than everybody else, so that's your highest number. Okay, so vocab, exponent, and power is that 2, and then base is the bottom number. Okay, let's look here. Okay, when they're given an expression like this, they have the same number multiplied however many times. Okay, that number becomes our base. And then how many times is that number being multiplied? 3, right? So that becomes our exponent. Because if we go backwards, remember this equals -8 times -8 times -8. So simplest form is our exponential form. Okay? So on 2, what's my base?
8.
What?
4.
For B. All of them, right? Yep. If it's in parentheses, keep it in parentheses. Okay, and then how many times is that number being multiplied, or that expression? How many times is that expression being multiplied in this example? 4. So where's that 4 go? What's the vocab word for it? Exponent. Yep. However many times that base is showing up multiplying by each other, that's our exponent. Okay. What about C? Do we have a bunch of different things going on? So let's just take it one at a time. First, we see a 5. How many 5s are there? 1. Do we really need to write 1 as our exponent? No, because it means the same thing as 5. Okay, so 5 is done. What's our next one? R. How many times does it show up? 2. So where does that go? Exponent of 2. Okay, what's our next letter? S, and how many times does that show up? 4. Notice how I wrote my answer. Why did I write them right next to each other like that? Because it's still multiplication. You can put multiplication signs in here if you want to, like they do up here, but you can just write them next to each other also. Questions on these? I want you guys to try those next 3 on your own. So write each expression using exponents in simplest form. Try those 3. So on A, it says -1 times -1. So what is that -1? Is that our base or is that our exponent? It's our base. Okay, so we have -1, and how many times does it appear? 2. How many times is it multiplying by itself? 2 times. Everyone get that? All right, what's my base on B? 5x plus 1. Remember, keep it together since it starts together. And how many times does it appear? 2. It's multiplying by itself 2 times. Okay, on C, let's take it one at a time. What's my first term? 1/2. How many times? Just once. Okay. What's my next term? X, and I write it right next to it for multiplication. How many times does it appear? 4. And what's my next term? Y, and how many times does it appear? 3. Good. And then if it asked you to go backwards, I want you to understand that if you went backwards, you would get right back to there. Okay? Questions on these before we get into substituting? All right. Let's talk about substitution. Okay, this has x squared plus y. If it's to the third power, how can I say that? I said x squared cubed, y cubed. Okay? So, like we've been doing since the beginning, if we're given a letter equal to a number, what do we do with that number? Substitute it. Yep, thank you. We're going to substitute or replace that number. Okay? So, what did it say x was? What did it say x was up here? 6. Okay, I'm going to write these in parentheses. I will explain why in a second. Okay, so put that number in the parentheses or our base. Okay, then we have plus, what's my y? Negative 2. And then it said that was to the third power. Okay, 6 squared. It's positive, so we don't really have to worry about it. What is this really saying? 6 times 6. What's 6 times 6? 36. Plus, we got to be careful with this one. Why do we have to be careful? Because it's negative. So let's think about it. What is this saying? What is that saying?
2 times negative 2 times negative 2.
Yep. So let's go slow. Negative 2 times negative 2 gives you what? Positive 4, right? And then times another negative 2 gives you negative 8. What do you notice? We get a negative number, okay? We get a negative number because we have an odd exponent. Okay, if we get an odd exponent with a negative number, your answer is going to be negative. If you get an even exponent, you're going to get a positive like we did over here. Okay? So you can think about it like that if you want. So now we just have to evaluate. What's 36 plus a negative 8? 28. Yeah? So just be careful. Biggest thing to be careful with is those negatives. Knowing if you have to have a positive or a negative as your answer. Okay? Go and try this last one. Remember this says x squared minus y cubed. Go ahead and substitute and then solve. Yep, x is negative 5. Okay, what's y? 2. All right, negative 5 squared. Is our answer going to be positive or negative?
Positive.
It's going to be positive because we have an even power this time with a negative. So even, you're going to get positive. So what's 5 times 5? 25. Minus, what's 2 to the third power?
8.
Yep, let's walk through it because you get 2 times 2, which is 4 times 2 again. You get 8. So what's 25 minus 8? 17. How are we feeling? Good? All right. So on this exit ticket, I want you to evaluate this when A equals 3. So ignore what all this says. Use this equation. Use this equation here when A equals 3. I will hand out an exit ticket for you.